Brand nerds. Oh, we got a What's Poppin' edition of Brands, Beats, and Bites. What's poppin', LT?
What is poppin', man? This is a big one and a great one, and Brand Nerd, something that's really timely that we hope can help not only us, but most importantly, you.
All right, brand nerds. We are fortunate, I'd even say blessed, to have wonderful guests on our podcast. Sometimes we have experts in a particular domain. Larry and I may have never met them before, but they're smart people, and so we bring them to you. And fortunately, they want to come on and drop some jewels. But every now and again on our show, LT, we have family. Every
Yep.
now and again. And this time, brand nerds, we have family. This dude, this dude here, LT will say a little bit more quick intro. This dude here, I have spent time with in the US and in the UK. And I just love this guy's mind. I love his mind. The saying, brand nerds, iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, all of those things. That is what this brother does for me and has been doing it now for many, many years. One of the absolute best in our craft, best in our craft. And
Yes.
what we got him talking about today, Larry, is now all the AI is going on. We have him talking about on this What's Popping edition, and we'll be chopping it up with him. The almighty algorithm, almighty, big brother, almighty algorithm, or as my daughters would say, the algo. I'm like, what the hell is an algo? The algo. Brand nerds, you know what happens when this algo thing takes over. It can go incredibly well, or as my UK brethren and sister would say, it can also go pear-shaped. Okay, it can go pear-shaped. So just a couple of examples of this of late. The CEO of McDonald's. Oh, as my people would say, bless his heart. Bless his heart. Chris Kaczynski. Kaczynski. This is CEO. You all have probably seen it, brand nerds. He's talking about the new Arch Burger. And this dude is referring to it as product. And pretending like he's taking a bite of this thing. He's taking like a New York pigeon bite, okay, just like a peck, okay, like a peck. He's like, peck, 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 and talk about how good the product is. He gets murdered. He gets murdered. Algo, murdered. That's how it goes pear-shaped. But on the positive side, Dr. Pepper, TikTok, a jingle discovered or created by a young lady here in the States. Not a creative, not a jingle maker, not that. Just a consumer who loved Dr. Pepper, made a song about it. And our next guest actually did a whole write-up
Yep.
about this. And so, brand nerds, get ready here. You're about to learn something. We're going to get into best practices to consider when we're dealing with the Big Brother Almighty algorithm. LT, talk to the peoples, please.
DC, what a great setup. We have our great friend, Jonathan Trimble, who we simply affectionately call Trimble. Welcome, Trimble.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my privilege.
So, Trimble, we're going to give a little bit more setup, and then we're going to have you really deep dive your thoughts because we know you have some great ones, which will really kick into our conversation for the three of us. Okay, so as DC said, we thought these stories always bubbling up with like a turbo boost from the algo, as DC pointed out. It would be really helpful for us, and more importantly, the brand nerds, for all of us to take a deep breath, and provide some real thinking on how to navigate all of this. As we thought about it, there's no one better than our great friend Trimble for us to tap on the shoulder and bring him into this conversation. Also, you should know Trimble was a prior guest on this podcast. It is album 3, track 10. If you haven't listened to it, we suggest you go check it out. We are tapping Trimble on the shoulder for this almighty algorithm conversation because Trimble is a brilliant, deep thinker about all things, and especially about marketing and how successful brands operate. And he is really enamored with the way the algorithms work and how algorithms impact us as marketers in every moment. In his Rise Up newsletter, which DC was alluding to, which he posts on LinkedIn, he writes brilliantly and extensively about this and many other things brand and marketing. You owe it to yourself to check it out. So, okay, brand nerds, here's the flow of the show today. First, we really want to hear from Trimble, as I alluded to. He's going to kick us off in a minute to help provide more context and more depth to what we are discussing. We'll get into that first. The second part is the three of us are going to chat about the almighty algorithm, including implications for us as marketers, with focus on those of us who are brand managers trying to make sense of it all, and most importantly, going forward, helping you brand managers and brand stewards and people who are right in the thick of things for optimizing brand strategies and tactics to ultimately maximize results around this almighty algorithm. And then the third part and last part, as our conversation comes to a natural close, we will then posit some recommendations for all of us brand nerds to help us leverage the algorithm, the almighty algorithm, in the best way possible. So that's the flow of the show. Trimble, the floor is yours, because we love to hear you, because we know you've got some great thinking on this. What say you about where we're at with all of this?
Okay, so as you mentioned, each week I put together a list of links and things and news that's been going around on brands. And I suppose for the last 12 months, at least, the thing that keeps recurring is the phenomenon of social media, or the algorithm, or the algo, not to be confused with algae, which is found in your pond. But similar, it kind of spawns. These kind of phenomena, big sort of home run hits that explode, that the algorithm almost fixates on and creates this huge amount of noise around in ways that I think is quite different from even how we perceive even the term social media, because we're not really talking about friends of friends sharing things here. What we're really talking about is where it's ended up, which is specifically TikTok has driven short form video, and therefore all the other platforms as well, including YouTube, including Instagram, including our whole lives. Even when we're watching the big screen, we're dual screening on the small one. And so really what we've got is almost like when 24-hour TV came out, it's on all the time, it's on in our hands all the time, we're paying a lot of attention to it, and we're kind of glued to it, and then suddenly this thing will erupt across all of it, but almost by itself. It's not been produced, it's not been thought through, there's no one's prepared it or delivered it to an audience. It's the algorithm itself gets a hold of it and starts circulating it. And that will be because in the beginning, a certain amount of people are paying a certain amount of attention to it. Once that happens, it goes to phase 2. More people start paying attention to it. Then people notice that people are paying attention to it. They then want their share of the eyeballs, so they all jump on it. Those people themselves, all of them have their own followers and communities and so on and so forth. So this thing starts completely spiraling in and of itself. So the things to note that are different are the scale of it. In the beginning, when social media popped that Oreos cookie eclipse thing, when you actually ran the numbers on it, you realized it was a kind of a phenomenon, but the total number of shares and likes and things are actually pretty small compared to broadcast media. And the flip reverse is true now. The size of some of these things that go down run into the billions of views to the compute. We can't sort of even calculate them. And the length of time they run is also quite unfathomable. So I'm still getting served Romeo Bingham's Dr. Pepper theme as one of those examples. It's continuing to, for as long as the algorithm will continue to serve and it's continuing to get eyeballs, out of sync with whenever it happened, this thing can continue on.
It could be months later is what you're saying.
It could be year. Yeah. I mean, it could be a year later. You suddenly pick up. If someone's interested in it, they'll get it. So the short tail on these things is the peak on these things is huge. And then the long tail on these things is huge. And it runs into the billions of views, like at a scale we can't really sort of wrap our heads around. And that keeps happening. And it keeps kind of happening in a way that's completely uncontrolled or planned for by the CMO or the brand leaders or the people involved. And I think even in a way that social media managers aren't really geared up to deal with. They, it used to be something blew up and then you'd have a reaction. And now it's almost like the reaction's not even yours to control because everybody else is fishing in for their set of the eyeballs.
Right.
And then you add in AI into that, meaning that you can now take that McDonald's CEO clip that you just referred to, the version I saw this morning, someone's used AI to recreate him joking about it with a behind the scenes edit of why he was doing it, laughing at himself, going, well, of course I don't eat the product. I'm paid $20 million a year and I've got a valet and a private chef. And some of that is created by an AI facsimile. Some of it's from the original and some of it's cut in. So even AI is just making the joke, it's making the reactions up for you. Like I actually, at one point I thought, oh, this is a very clever response from McDonald's now. He's gone back on camera to kind of be in on the joke with it. And it turns out, no, it's not that. The audience has created that for them. So the ability to take all these images and these things and just throw it in the machine and then create a whole bunch of other stuff. So on every level, these are like, awareness atom bombs, the kinds of which we've not seen. And that's the recurring phenomenon that I'm seeing from there's lots of things going on in marketing and lots of changes, but the thing that I'm seeing is this loss of control on, let's call it the top of the funnel, to these unpredicted moments at huge scale. Cracker Barrel was last year, the brand we'd never heard of, astronomer, B2B data infrastructure brand, CEO caught at the Coldplay concert. Cracker Barrel was a rebrand. Duolingo got a hold of this early, but in a way it ended up eating itself, and that they end up killing the owl, for which had become very famous in social media as a character. They end up kind of killing the owl off almost because the phenomenon of the owl itself and the way in which it was getting appropriated by audience was almost negatively impacting progress from a business standpoint. And then this year we've had Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper's kind of end of last year crashing into this year. Even in the time since I knew I was coming on the show, McDonald's has landed. McDonald's now leans into Wendy's and all the others that take part in it. So it just seems to keep happening. Harry Styles' new album, he's holding a big gulp. Boom, big gulp, will it, won't it, this kind of stuff. So that seems to be the recurring elephant in the room, if you like, is to what extent does a brand have any control of this anymore? How does it respond to it? And just to know, and I think, and respect the fact that it's not really social media, it's shareable, and it's sort of not really working like that. What it is an attention economy that's taken over everything. What DC in your intro, where you are right, it is the almighty algorithm. It is, it is a Death Star that the whole world, the only thing we can seem to turn into sales these days or turn into money these days is attention. And if it's going and the algorithm's pushing something and something's catching, it almost will fixate on that one thing, so that everybody becomes a feeding frenzy, the likes of which we've never really seen. And I think that there's another phenomenon, which is you can entirely miss one of these things.
Yes.
You're in your own algorithmic lane to such an extent that it doesn't have that kind of weird crossover word of mouth thing, chit chat, casual, water cooler in the bar after work kind of phenomenon. It's like something can happen and I can miss it entirely if it's not slightly in my interest zone. So sometimes I acid test these things, and my son, who's 13, you realize how they're consuming media, and they're completely addicted to those phones. They're watching them for the memes, what he calls memes.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
And he's using the memes because that's how they stay in touch. The memes is like the news. It keeps them informed. That's what's going on in the world. It's memes. What are the memes? These memes in their world are changing every 7 to 10 days. I asked him to put together a presentation for a few of us. By the time he'd finished, he was like, I don't know why I'm doing this presentation. By the time I'm giving it to you, all the ones I'm talking about are done. So sometimes I'll acid test it, and if I catch one of these brand things, I'll ask if it's come up in his feed. Some crossover. Dr. Pepper, he knows that he starts singing it back. Neither one of us have talked about it. As a family, we will never discuss it. It will never happen. But if I throw if I throw it at him, oh, bam, that one comes back. So we both do happen to know about it, but almost not knowing that each other knows about it. And then in other cases, it's stuff that I will never see and stuff that he'll never see, depending on what your interests are.
Right.
So it's kind of a wild time from an attention standpoint, from that kind of what we used to call brand fame, or that priming, or that all-important salience. We know salience is dollars to a brand. Unprompted salience is dollars to a brand, then, now, forever. And yet the force that seems to be controlling it most is this almighty algorithm. It's like, as soon as I remember, like about 20 years ago, there was the birth of brand and two-way comms, and it was not going to be one way anymore, and co-creating with the audience and all this sort of stuff. And it was almost like those thoughts were ahead of their time. What's actually happened is attention and the production of things that people want to watch has gone into the entire hands of the audience. So it all lives out there now. That and the algorithm run it, and the amounts of money going through the platforms in ad spend means that they are also incredibly cash rich and incredibly powerful. So we do live now in this algorithmic attention economy has swallowed us whole and is kind of eating its own tail. But I think we still think about it like the social media channel or the add-on, or it's not it's not strategic, or all these other things, but it is sort of, whether we like it or not.
Well, it's not in a vacuum, I think, is what you're saying too. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite right. And then I think if you're if you're an older brand, what you're gaining is, I think, this, to some extent, this unfair advantage of having been able to build your brand during the broadcast era. So you have this, and the distribution and the scale and size and length of time in market kind of means you have this ad stock, brand stock that you can use, and that can collide with the new because of nostalgia or a thing, or someone tosses a jingle into it and it catches because you're already known. I think a lot of older brands can seem to be benefiting from that stuff. In the case of Cracker Barrel, it's like, please don't mess around with my brand. We're very fond of it. It was almost like giving the marketing department an insight into their own audience. It was almost like they were lost touch. It can be very real and very connecting back to the realities. And then if you're a newer brand, it's the opposite, really. It's like, how on earth do you build mind presence against these things that had the advantage of monolithic media or broadcast media? And you're just kind of doing anything to try and catch a piece of it. And typically speaking, catching a piece of it means trend jacking. And if you're trend jacking, then everyone's trend jacking. You're just one. You're just another one. How do you build that identity, that positioning, that kind of core stuff? And I think the way I sort of tend to view that with the guys is, because we're working with I work a lot with earlier stage brands, is almost like, try to think of it like a long-term pension plan or something. It's like, just keep throwing small amounts of consistent things into this place, and build up over time. And those things, in a way, like, the simpler the better. A piece of identity, a piece of language, anything sonic, anything you've got that you can make work. And just try to get that to compound over time. And, and the rest of it is like almost a little bit like stock market phenomena, day trading. You will get these incredible swings up that then can also swing back and vanish just as quick. And in the background, you want to just be pension planning, just keep chipping away at the same thing, which is incredibly hard, isn't it? Because the tastes are changing all the time, moods are changing, products are changing, and all that kind of stuff. So trying to be consistent in that. And we know as well that brand people don't last very long these days. So we're talking about compounding over 10 years. I mean, I've been in it long enough, and so have you guys. The brands I've worked on, you've had this happen, DC, Obey Your Thirst, for Sprite's they've put it back.
Yes,
and you're kind of like, look, that's wonderful, and that's exactly what's happening. That's happening algorithmically because what you did still appeals then now. So it's getting a chance to reset that's pretty much as chosen by the audience. It's like, we liked what you did then, do it again. But then you're kind of like, well, what would have happened if it had never been abandoned? You know,
Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot. Right.
Right. And it's at Dr. Pepper now. What I find, it's just come from South by Southwest. What you'll hear from the traditional brands is sports, more sports, because it's the only traditional thing that's still on television that people are still watching. They can kind of cling on to it. So like, which level of sports can you buy?
Well, it's the only thing I just pointed out, Trimble. It's the only thing that's live that you in essence have to watch the ads, because if you want to be up on the game and don't watch it later, which most people do, they don't want to find out the score. You have to watch it live, and that's where the ads become something in essence you really have to watch, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and back to that other thing that you're not getting that kind of chit chat from one to the other, not because I'm in my algorithmic lane feeding me what I already like, but because I overheard it from in the chat, or you get that kind of in the room build up, which is probably another phenomenon. So they're grabbing onto that. But I don't understand, for example, why maybe they will, but I don't think they are. Like, take that theme tune that you've been given by Dr. Pepper. Now that, well done, you have something. Now you compound it for the next 20 years. Like, whatever the name of the game is, like whatever you can compound, go for it. And if you haven't got anything to compound, just pick and select something. I'm almost at a point now where almost at a point of experience with, like, we used to spend a lot of time getting words right and things like that right. Today I'm a bit more like, if you Dr. Pepper, good and nice, why not? Like, take it. If you can bank it,
why not?
Just take it. Obey your thirst. I could argue all day whether it's right or wrong, but if you own it and you've got it, and you can make it anything yours, that's a top of the tree gift.
Well, you have to be able to make it yours and really connect it to the brand, right? Emotionally connected to the brand, which DC did with Obey Your Thirst, and Dr. Pepper's done an incredible job with everything that they've done vis-a-vis, their college football lean in, and again, that's something they've been consistent about, Trimble, for what is it now, 10 years, D? If not close to it.
Yeah, 8 seasons of Fansville.
Yeah. Wow.
But I think Trimble said a lot, D. Trimble, you complete, because I'd love to get DC's thoughts about what you've said.
Yeah, let's go to DC. I was going to pick up on the connect to the brand thing, which I think you.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that, Trimble.
Yeah, it's a last thought on this whole algorithmic, Ouroboros, whatever you want to call it, which is the connection to the brand bit. When someone sings your theme and the brand is in the theme and that goes the way it does, you are in luck. Because typically that connection isn't there. And, I did a lot of work looking at the duo OWL, which that basically brand managers' response to this was entertain or die. They just sort of thought, well, as long as we're popular with the algorithm, that's the name of the game. And of course, what happens is everybody ends up sounding like a teenager in these brands sounding like that. And it doesn't really connect back to some of the stature or the pricing or the position of the product in a meaningful way. So what I think you have is this terrible divorce between, we're very, very popular in social media, and it is translating to little or no pricing power, distribution power, by sales, basically. And that definitely came to life in the Duolingo thing, where the OWL itself was incredibly popular and all of its chaos, and it was watched like a TV show, but that TV show was being put out for free. And the relationship back to being able to turn free subscribers into paid subscribers at Duolingo is turning out to be near nil.
Right.
In fact, the opposite. What it's attracting is lots and lots of casual viewers who have no intention of either downloading the app or ever subscribing to a plan. And if Duolingo cannot turn the billion signups that it has into some kind of meaningful user growth as dictated by the product wanting to learn it, then its share price begins to collapse. And that's what you've been seeing, is there a business here that's as promised or not? And in the end, I think what they kind of got to the conclusion was that this OWL was creating a completely separate beast. And I have the same issue. Talk about one of our own brands, Tonic Health in the UK, which is much smaller. It's supplements. And the founder's taken to TikTok. He's doing something like 30 to 60 million views a month, going down aisles in supermarkets, talking about why this bread might be better to buy than that bread, health tips, reading the back of the labels, all this kind of stuff. And
Wow.
sometimes it feels like two phenomena. It feels like we have a TV show called Tonic Health Sunna going down the aisle, and we have this other business called the supplements business, and getting these two things to connect back. And for one to, it's not the case that if you are a phenomenon in social media that, you know, that you master these algorithms, that it translates back to growing the business. And that's when I'm like, you know what, give me some old fashioned posters near the stores that are really well branded and say what the product does, and let the rate of sale creep up in those distribution stores so you can get some more distribution, and be really careful trying to win over the almighty algorithm, you know. So that your connection back to the brand point and knowing thyself, the brand knowing thyself,
Knowing
I think
thyself.
suddenly shoots to like higher than it ever, you know, you used to be able to run different ad campaigns and people could roughly put it together, right? I don't think you've got that luxury now. You need to really know what you're about and not let it keep swinging through different phases and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that is me now complete on what I've noticed in the last 12 to 14 months on all things giant algorithm.
Love that. I love that brain. I'll say dump by you, because
Thank you.
your brain is so big, and that was really awesome. That was great. Thank you for that. So Dee, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I know you have a lot from what Trimble said.
Larry, my boy Trimble has done today as he always does with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Matrix. He's got some software. There's a little spike that goes to the brain. He starts loading up the different software, and then taking it. You go, oh, okay, I'm ready to do some things. I want to go back to a word that you said, Trimble, that just stopped me. And the word was erupt. Erupt. That word. And then you said erupt, and then whatever the thing is goes across all media. So it's no longer contained. And then finally you said it's uncontrolled. Uncontrolled. And this is what has had my mind spinning, cogitating on that. There's a book called The Power of Now, author is Eckhart Tolle. Well, I should say this before I just pick Eckhart Tolle out of the air. What I look for in marketing and in life are the correlations between something that seems like it's just business, between that and that which is pure. That which is pure. And I think Eckhart Tolle is one of the foremost authors in discussing that which is pure. So in this almighty algorithm, you talked about it's uncontrolled. Brand managers can't control it. CMOs can't control it. No one can control it. Once this eruption happens, it's not controllable. So here's a quote by Eckhart Tolle. Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on.
Wow.
Eckhart Tolle.
Wow.
And because we are in the business of marketing and building brands, I actually believe that this notion of the balance, and Larry and I talk about this often, Trimble, of art and science is apropos. Art and science. Artful, brand nerd. Let's be artful. Here's another person that I look towards to speak purity. Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin, Def Jam fame, and has produced music for some of the biggest artists to have ever lived. Rick Rubin. He has a book out called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Here is what Rick Rubin says in that book. The best art is made when we are least in control. Not most in control, least in control. So you've got Eckhart Tolle saying, hey, let things go, far greater power, and you've got Rick Rubin saying, hey, when you have least control, this is when the real art shone through, which then brings me right back to erupt, purity. We said up front that we were going to go through, Brand Nerds, a process. So let me break down a process on the eruption on the social media, or I think, Trimble, you're coming up with a new phase, sharing media. Maybe that's more appropriate here. But 4 steps. I know, Trimble, I normally do 3, but 4 now. First step, there's some hidden buildup. It's kind of behind the scenes, and just a few people kind of know what's up with it. Getting a couple of shares, a couple of likes, maybe a couple of comments, still nascent. Step 1. Step 2, oh, the algo, the almighty algo is going, what's that I smell? What's that I smell over there? I'm smelling something happening, Larry and Trimble. And when that gets involved, the platforms start doing their thing. TikTok does its thing. YouTube does its thing. The Gram does its thing. And these are the signals that are traveling. So it hasn't erupted yet, but the smelling of, ooh, there's some stuff going over there. That's the second step. The third step is the actual eruption. Okay. That's when the algorithm goes crazy. Now everybody's seeing it. You can't, it's inescapable from a social media perspective. And then the fourth step is mass media everywhere. No form of media remains untouched. It's in TV, it's on radio, it's you hear it on Pandora, it's everywhere. So these are the steps. And then I got to thinking, Trimble, again, going back to purity and the word eruption. Doesn't that sound a lot like a volcano?
Yep.
Doesn't it sound like a volcano? First step, pressure is building. It's underground. Nobody sees it. Nobody sees it, can't hear it, but it's happening. Second thing that happens, oh, the eruptions, pressure starting to come up on top of that thing. Third step, boom, it's up in the air. Oh shit, the lava's going up. That's the third step. The fourth step is when it comes down, it spreads. It's the same process, literally the same process. What do they have in common? Both the algo doing its thing and a volcano doing its thing. Heat. Heat is what I believe they both have in common. And I believe for marketers today, where before the key skill was strategic thinking or creative strategy or idea generation, these skills now, because oftentimes with the volcano and with the before the algo takes over, the heat is not necessarily perceptible to everybody. You now have to have the skill of feeling the heat before anybody else feels it. And back in the day, Trimble, my mother, Gloria Cobbin, you've heard me say this before. Larry knows what I'm about to say now. She would say this to me, Trimble, when I would go on and on about a subject. She would say, baby, are you arriving at a point? And I would say, yes, mom, I'm arriving at a point. So Brand Nerds and Trimble and LT, I'm arriving at a point here. Back in the day in the music business, the most important people on the entire team were called artist and repertoire, A&R. These were the executives who could hear Joni Mitchell on like in a little club with 10 people, 8 of whom are high out of their minds. They can hear Joni Mitchell and go, ooh, yeah. They can hear Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Spinal Tap, Def Leppard, The Beatles, it doesn't matter. They could hear the talent, sense the heat early, and then help that talent develop. And in many times, just get the fuck out of the way and let the talent be what the talent needs to be. We as marketers need to be better at A&R, at sensing and feeling that heat. That's my response to you, Brother Trimble.
D, I love that. And I'm going to build on that, Trimble, if it's okay with you. So that is critical. At the same time, to build on the heat, you've got to understand your brand and understand what your brand is about. And so I think one of the things I'm going to go to your volcano analogy and some of the examples and then bring it back to the brand. So the thing that all these things have in common, there's an authenticity to it. The reason why the McDonald's thing blows up is because it was authentic in the sense that this CEO did that in public, and people ridiculed the guy. And by the way, it's also the #1 brand. So everybody's trying to take shots at that. So if anybody in the industry sees them in essence effing up, they're going to try and take advantage of it. So it went viral from that standpoint too, because I think if the Jack in the Box CEO did the same thing, that never happens, right? It doesn't have the same kind of virality to it. That volcano's barely coming out. You know what I'm saying? To use your example, D. But going back to the point here, though, and this is where I think brand nerds, where I think it becomes really important. As DC said, you've got to understand the heat, but you've got to then understand your brand to then understand how you're going to navigate the heat. So if you understand your brand positioning and what your brand is in the marketplace and who the brand lovers are and who the consumers are that you're really appealing to, then you'll be able to say, oh boy, this is awesome. Let's really leverage this. And you have a social media team and they're on it because they already understand it. They don't even need directions. Again, going back to your Rick Rubin example, D, because they're going to be authentic to understanding what the brand is, seeing the opportunity, and then spreading it. They don't need direction because they're going to understand it, right? And so, again, it goes back to really understanding who you are as a brand, who your brand lover is, and who your consumers are. So then you can either, surf the heat. You can literally surf the lava, take advantage of it, or to your Eckhart Tolle example, you know what? I'm out. I'm just going to run away from this because I know that this is not something I'm going to participate in because it's not going to be good for me. So that's my thoughts on it.
Like that, LT. Trimble, what's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, I love all of that. And I think you just said it. There is a very real do nothing response that's completely counterintuitive. Let go. I mean, there is a life lesson in there. I mean, one of the things that the algorithm does in a way is it, as does the stock market to some extent, and some of these other things that are like hive mind like, is that they do remind us that at some level our desire for frameworks and strategy is a response to the reality of atomic chaos that lives in the world. And I think it requires business leaders, marketing people in particular, to get very human about this in the way that I think people are in real life. Is there's a certain degree of letting go and acceptance now and mindfulness and these kind of things around what you can and can't control. That's different from previous generations where the name of the game was sort of controlled by any means. I mean, in a way, the brands, guidelines, I mean, all this stuff is wired around a human's desire, a company's desire, a corporation's desire to de-risk chaos and make things neat enough that a lot of people can follow them and we can re-implement them and we can create kind of repeatable, sustainable outcomes, which are to some extent beyond our control. So I think getting very comfortable with this loss of control. It's something Terence O'Reilly, if you haven't had him on the show, get him on the show. He talks a lot about this because he was the Crocs guy and the Stanley Cup guy, and talks a lot about your listening, DC, to the trying to get wind of these things before they erupt.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure what his teams do is they are very ear to the ground. They are in these platforms all the time,
Right.
listening for signals very, very closely, more than just these social listening reports, which are basically just sentiment reports. Are we good? Are we bad? We're talking about looking for clues that
Yep.
may not be your brand or your brand
Right.
terms. It may be something else. They're trying to spot these things. When things are being surfaced, sometimes what he'll do is he'll take them and he'll put rocket fuel into that volcano to make it erupt.
Got it.
You know, and the Stanley Cup phenomenon. I mean, we'd have to trace it in detail. It's very hard to tell, I think, where the virality of it was organic and the virality of it was then the brand's response to the
Turbo
virality.
boosting it. Yep.
Yeah, because the cup is found in the car is ice. The car's blown up. The ice in the cup is still intact, and the cup's intact. That's already quite funny. But then they, don't they write a check and buy her a brand new replacement car, and boom, that's actually then what takes the thing that would have probably had a level of response to it and turns it into a masterclass in the brand being able to hook it back and it working on every kind of level. So he's very keen on that. And I know that he talks at length about letting go and letting his teams be and letting where the audience wants to go. I heard something brilliant once. This is relation to drumming and Zildjian cymbals, which are one of the great mates. And Armin Zildjian, the family business. And one of the things he said, and I think this is relevant to this, is he said he was the first guy to hang out with drummers and have artist relationships and partnerships that hadn't been done before. And he spent a lot of time with the drummers. He said, all I try to do is I hang out with the drummers. I just try to take my product where they want to go. And I think this, like, listening to the audience and trying to see where it wants to go and to follow it, I think is a brave new skill in a world that hasn't been constructed by that. And then the follow on from that is the do nothing. It's there is no meaningful role for us here. It's happening by itself. Our job is to allow it, enjoy it, and don't get in, kind of in a way, don't get involved. Let it come and go, because it is. Let's recognize it for the phenomenon that it is. It's going to come. It's going to burn off. It's not really going to. It's not going to compound us.
Right.
Astronomer last year is huge, right? Does anyone remember it? I bet you can't even remember the name of it. If I hadn't said astronomer on this call, you wouldn't have even remembered the name of the brand. It's only because I wrote about it that I even remember. But what people were saying at the time was, oh my gosh, these guys have delivered 10 years of $20 million a year brand advertising in 1 week. And you go, yeah, but only really for that week.
Right.
Evaporated just as quick. Who is doing well out of it is the people that were in it. They're back on Oprah. They're retelling their story. They're doing fine. But actually the brand's now gone. And it wasn't. It was the only data infrastructure company we could name for a while. It was trending on Google and all sorts, which you would never expect from a B2B company. So the backdraft of these things can evaporate. Nike Maduro at the beginning of the year when Nicolas Maduro is in the Nike sweat top with his handcuffs on.
The
ear defenders, and suddenly the 2013 Nike Tech fleece is selling out.
Right.
And
who could have predicted that? That's Trimble's point. No one.
I mean, it's just January 3 or 72. You haven't even woken up. You're not even back in the office. So that's going off. And in a way, Nike's job then is to stand back. The audience made all the response ads for them.
Yeah.
They don't really sort of need to do anything. But at the same time, there's also a certain amount of I don't know. There was two things on that. One is like an allowing, because I know that Nike specifically has been in a 2-year soul search.
Right.
It's obviously did very well in COVID, like Lululemon, like a lot of brands post-COVID. It has to experience a fashion down cycle. You can't always have up all the time. It's stock market listed. So you are going to have to cycle this next bit out where jeans have to come in, because we've been in our Nike joggers for fun. We've bought all the leggings we can for a bit, and we just have to let it play out a tiny bit. So the Nike should be very good at just like keeping its head down and just riding through that. And these Maduro moments are great for letting it flare up. Nike Mind, these kind of shoes, these movements are great. But the soul searching that it's been doing took it all the way back, no surprise, to re-releasing Just Do It.
Right. By the way, Trimble, I want to build on something though. The Dr. Pepper thing, going back to that. And this is where we're talking about, and again, I'll use the basketball coach who's still alive, Hugh B. Brown, when to pass and when to shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There you go.
When do you take hold? When do you shoot? And when do you pass? You just sit it out. And so what I love about what Dr. Pepper did with the jingle is because they know their brand so well, right? And they know the consumer so well that that happened, and they were able to easily shoot in that instance, right? They leaned right in because in Trimble, you made a joke in your newsletter. Well, the CMO's at Dr. Pepper, he doesn't have to do anything. You know, the consumer's doing all the work. In reality, though, that's because they've done such a good job of understanding their brand and understanding how well that fit in their brand. So that was just something that was a wonderful stroke of luck that they were easily able to double down, and they did it quickly because they understood it fit who they were.
They did, although, you know, funny enough, 23 days in, and I know that's a magic number for Dr. Pepper, DC, as you pointed out to me privately, the number of ingredients and stuff. But, you know, there were people like, why aren't you jumping on this? I think it was kind of the opposite. One thing, I suppose, for our listeners in this framework that you've set up is in the sort of bubbling and the allowing and all this stuff is, I think in a corporation and a big brand, it can take an awful lot of work to agree to do nothing. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think it took them some time. I think they couldn't ignore it. I know what you mean about past and what have you, but I think they were genuinely busy doing the college football stuff. I don't think they were listening. I don't think they were on top of it. I think they were getting tapped on the shoulder, like, "Are you guys going to do something about this?"
Thank you for correcting me. Yeah,
it's blowing up on you. I'm not 100% sure. It's that certainly I traced the events fairly carefully, and it seemed to be more that as the case. Then they were like, "We have to kind of do something like this, or we have to kind of." They almost were pulled into it, I think, in the end. And then I think since they've kind of let it ride. But you know, in the case of the other ones, the PR people, all the other people, you know, there was a blow up, wasn't there, on like a product scare, was it with Tylenol at the end of year as well, around autism, I think it was some kind of nutty thing. Same thing, no response, completely correct response. And I think it takes a lot, right? Everybody's instincts are, what should we do, what should we do, what should we do? And the meetings, again, I was reminded, I was just come fresh from South by Southwest. I was watching something on Pop-Tarts, and again, it was the football, and they'd put some eyeballs on the Pop-Tart to make it a mascot. And they were describing that for them, that was a lot of meetings. You know, like for us, we just watch it, think it's funny. Of course, a Pop-Tart can have eyeballs and wander out onto a field. We think it's great. But they were like, that's against brand guidelines. There's trademark issues, issues, registration issues, there's all this stuff. And so actually, this business of do nothing is something that's going to take several meetings about, isn't it? So
actually, I would just say this: doing nothing or something, no matter what, it's going to take a lot of meetings. And that's probably what happened with Dr. Pepper too, is that they're like, you know, there was some consternation of what they should do because there was a lot of meetings behind finally doing something, I'm guessing.
But I think you guys have put it well, which is the reason why the volcano analogy is good. It is going to erupt.
That's right.
It's going to erupt, yes.
And it's going to start flowing lava at you. So, you know, whether it's pass, run,
right,
get suited up, dive in, pour more fuel on it. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. It's going to, are you listening to it? Can you catch it? To decide, do you have a choice to either make it hotter, stay away from it, or something kind of in between. I think that kind of pass, dive, swerve, you know, that response. But I think what the great thing about the volcano analogy is that it identifies the premise, which is there's going to be, to some extent, a fairly seismic loss of control and heat.
That's exactly right. Nobody's controlling a volcano. All right.
So I think you guys should do a framework for the response.
Well, there you go. That's the segue. So now, I think this has been awesome, great fun, and hopefully the brand nerds are really enjoying this. So now, what do we think brand nerds, again, you're the brand steward of, you named Trimble a small brand, a big brand, you know, and these volcanoes are erupting around you. What should brands be thinking and doing to plan for this? So when the volcano erupts, they're, you know, it's like they already are practiced and ready for what they should be thinking about the thinking and the actions that should take place. Who wants to start about recommendations? Shall I?
Please, brother.
Okay. So here's what I think. I think it's something that becomes absolutely paramount as we talk about this. And that is know thy brand, right?
Yeah.
You've got to understand, you really got to know your brand in all facets of it. You need to understand your brand promise and your brand positioning and where you are and where you aspire to be, not just where you are today, but actually where you want to take your brand. And so you have to have that. That's step one. That needs to happen like, ASAP, right? And that should take a lot of thinking. And that, by the way, brand nerds, that's not something that changes. If you do this right, that should last a long, long time. But know the brand promise, know your brand positioning. That's step number one. Then the other step, and Trimble, you alluded to, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name who you mentioned, you've got to have folks on your team, whether they're called social media listeners, there's all kinds of different products out there that one can have their ear to the ground, and probably you really need the right people to monitor at all different levels. So you're seeing whether there's a real volcano about to erupt or that one's just hissing some smoke. So you have your ear to the ground, and as Trimble alluded to, it's not just around what your brand is and what's happening in your category, but actually in the whole world, because that could actually be something that can impact you, or you can ride, or again, using that Hubie Brown analogy, you might want to shoot on something that's not maybe your category, but something that your consumers care deeply about, that your brand lovers care deeply about, that you can actually put yourself a part of, that at first glance might not be something that would be something that you would jump on. So those are my two things. Brand positioning and have your ear to the ground in all the ways. And then the third thing is, it's like you have your kit that's ready to go when something does bubble up. You already have, everybody knows what to do. Everybody's prepared on your team to how we need to handle this. So I guess that's three things. That's my recommendations, guys.
Trimble.
I think the algorithm brings the audience in the room, and I think that great CMOs and great brand leaders lead on behalf of the audience in the organization when they're able to do their jobs well or doing their jobs well. And that might mean a certain amount of reality around what an audience's relationship with that product or brand really is and what it means to them, over what corporate marketing and what people inside corporations need it to mean, or need it to mean for other shareholders. And I suppose we've seen that this week. It's probably okay if the CEO of McDonald's doesn't eat his own product. I think the audience doesn't mind, they don't care. I mean, I think in a funny sort of way that the joke is partly him calling it a product and all those sort of things. But I think it's also that we don't really worry whether he likes it or not. We're not expecting him to, we know he lives in another stratosphere and we know he's running a property company. It's not. So I think audiences know that. And the reason why comment sections particularly in TikTok, you'll watch this, people watch the video for 2 seconds and straight into the comments. And in the comments, you will find the funniest, most real things getting said. It's like, well, of course he's not going to eat it. He's got a private chef. They'll make jokes about it you can't even imagine. And I think getting a level of intellectual and emotional, truthful honesty about an audience's relationship with a brand, which is, as I'm always reminded, they just don't care as much as the people who are on the inside of these things, in the way that so the formalities and all those things can be dropped. And I think we can have a certain amount of flexibility. So the extent to which the marketer is now allowed to bring the comment section, the audience, into the boardroom is, I think, got renewed importance over even a research debrief or, some of these other tricks, even over a social listening debrief. You're talking about what do they really say? It's almost being there yourself, noticing. And if they're saying something maybe that's not quite the way you would say it or even feel that comfortable with, if they're talking about it and that's what they want it to be, then that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Dee, what are you thinking?
You asked Larry, what can we say to the brand nerds now that we've discussed the almighty algorithm, and what do they now do? And you've given your three, Trimble has given his thoughts. I want to go back to Trimble's thought of the algorithm gets the people in the room. I'm going to use another analog, and it's going to be around music. And I actually connected heat to music earlier, but um, I remember going to a concert for an artist. I'm not going to name the artist because I don't want, maybe they just had a bad night. The place was packed, energy in the room. People were just excited to hear this artist. One or two setup acts came, they did their thing, energy rising, rising, rising. The main act comes onto the stage and they bomb. I mean, it was
Wow.
terrible.
It was palpable. Everybody knew it.
Yeah. People were so disappointed because they had their hopes up so high that this artist was going to do what they heard they were going to do, remember what they were going to do, all of that. And I think sometimes the algorithm, the almighty algorithm for brands is a bit like that. Is these brands will find a way. Sometimes it's trend jacking. They'll catch on to something. They'll get the algo to do something. Now we're there. And it's like Nirvana. Please entertain us. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And now we're here now. Entertain us. And there's no entertaining. So then let me go back. So now what do the brands, our marketing, our advertising, our publicity people, what do they do? Larry, you mentioned A, know thy brand. I have know thyself. Agree. B, you said, what did you say there? Have people that identify the heat. Agree with that. Ear to the ground, heat. And then your third one was similar to mine. I'm going to go a little bit different. And I think the third step, you said a kit. So have your kit. I think there's a step before that where a decision has to be made.
Yep.
And the decision has three possible alternatives. They all start with the letter F. Still in the volcano analogy. Your first step as a brand person, advertising person, publicity person is to determine if you're going to put fuel on it. This is what Trump said. Fuel, are we going to do that? The second option is fire suit. You're not ready to put fuel on it yet. You don't want to get burned up. Okay, so you got your suit on, and you're kind of like watching things. You're getting oh shit. Okay, I kind of feel like that's where Dr. Pepper was. That's why they waited 20 days.
Right.
They were waiting around in it with the suit on, going, oh, okay, yeah, something. We might need to do something. And then the third one, also, what you said, Trimble and LT, flight. We're out of here. Fuel, fire suit, flight. Once that decision is made between the three, then you go,
right.
Okay, I've decided fuel. Bam, I'm gonna now use this kit. Okay,
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Can I build on that? This is awesome. And I wasn't clear, and you added to what I didn't say, D, and I think it's really awesome. I think as part of what I was thinking as the kit is you've got to have a process in place for decision making. Like once somebody turns like, whatever the light on is like, oh shit, the volcano's erupting. So however that's convened, there's a meeting of all the minds and here and they lay out the situation and what do we do? So that's really part of that kit process. So where I'm going is once people say, yup, let's shoot, again, using that analogy, let's really leverage this to the hilt. Then you, to Trimble's point, And what everyone's really been saying is you don't control what's been done before. So now let your people who are really good at this, let them go, because now they have the A-OK to go all the way. Or the opposite, say, now you do not do anything. Or there's the in-between part. But that's a critical piece, D, that you illuminated that I think is really important.
Cool.
Lovely.
Excellent. Excellent.
What a great conversation. What a great conversation. Trimble, you, as we knew you would do, we couldn't have done this without you, quite frankly. So, you brought to the fore this almighty algorithm in a way that's really awesome. So we appreciate that. Anything else to add, gentlemen, before we take it to the close?
Not for me.
No, it's wonderful. I think what you've done brilliantly is acknowledge that there's a certain loss of control, as hot and wonderful and spectacular as these volcanoes are, and you found a way to let people and brand managers and CMOs figure out a way forward rather than just lose control, or just watch it happen. I think I can imagine that brings a little peace of mind to know, right, at least we can sit down. Is it fire suit, or flee?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Oh, I like your final F better. Flee. That's better.
Flee. Yeah.
Flee. That's
flee.
Better. Fuel,
Flee.
fire suit, flee. That's better. Yeah, I like that.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's it. The 3 Fs. All right. Brand nerds, thanks so much for listening to this almighty algorithm, What's Poppin' Brands, Beats, and Bytes episode. The executive producers of Brands, Beats, and Bytes are Jeff Shirley, Daryl D.C. Cobb, and Larry Taman, Jay Tate, and Tom Dioro.
The Podfather.
That's right. If you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share those on Apple Podcasts if you're so inclined. We love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.